Welcome back. In the debate last night, Governor Romney argued America's influence in the world has decreased since President Obama took office.
I look around the world. I don't see our influence growing around the world. I see our influence receding.
Governor, the problem is that on a whole range of issues, whether it's the Middle East, whether it's Afghanistan, whether it's Iraq, whether it's now Iran, you've been all over the map.
And a new BBC poll out just today shows 21 countries prefer President Obama to be reelected, 50% to 9%. Again, just one snapshot to take a look at. And joining me now, 2,000 people, I think, participated in that. Time Magazine's international editor, Jim Frederick, and assistant managing editor, Rana Foroohar. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's just dip right into this. Rana, your thoughts. So yesterday around the same time, we were talking about a possible strategy of Governor Romney hugging the policies of the president. That is exactly what happened. And I'm stunned by how surprised people were, because our first read team noted that that would be the theory. Dan Sr. was on Morning Joe and said that there was no difference in the withdrawal from Afghanistan, that they supported the 2014. So why the big surprise this morning?
Well, it's really interesting. I think you did see through the whole debate that there was a convergence in a lot of ways of the president's policies and what Governor Romney was saying. I was surprised by the talk around Afghanistan, and I think a lot of people were, that this was a policy that had been long held, that the Romney camp said that the withdrawal was a good thing, and to change that in the debate was certainly an interesting pivot. Dan
Sr. said it on Morning Joe, Jim. He flat out said there was no difference, but I want to play the moment during the debate that was such a stunner.
Well, we're going to be finished by 2014, and when I'm president, we'll make sure we bring our troops out by the end of 2014.
So what were his other options? I mean, could he say, I think we're going to stay there another 10, 15 years, and really think he would get in the White House with this war-weary country?
Well, no, he did back off of a call for a review.
Yeah.
He said that repeatedly, that his big plank on this issue is that we're going to call for a review.
With the generals and find out what they said.
We're not going to be hurried out of there. We're going to take a measured response. Why do we telegraph the date that we're leaving? That's foolhardy. Why do you tell somebody, when you're going to leave their party? So this is where he came down off of that, is he backed off saying, we are going to be done. We're out in 2014.
I just don't see what other option he had other than to embrace, or the wording was hug, the president's policies. He knows the numbers. He's seen the polling. No one wants to stay in Afghanistan. We see these stories of these young men and women and what they believe. Right. What could he have said different than that and be a winner?
Probably nothing.
Nothing.
But I think what's interesting is he takes this hard tack to the moderate. Is a question worth asking. Is he a flip-flopper, or are we finally seeing the real moderate Mitt? And will he be?
How many times can we ask that question? Particularly, I mean, you talk about tax policy, and those issues are certainly important. But when you discuss a war, or perhaps what actions to take in Syria, that takes on a whole new life, a whole new meaning, because you are talking about the sons and daughters of our country possibly having boots on the ground in another situation. I'm not giving anyone leg room or room to wiggle on any issue, but particularly when you're talking about war.
Absolutely.
That is egregious, I think, if you have a flip-flop stance. It's not an evolution at some point.
And the president made that point. I mean, he said very clearly that one of the things about being commander-in-chief is you've got to be clear. You've got to provide clarity. One of the things that I think was an interesting difference between the two candidates, and the president sort of drew it out with a funny quip about Romney's foreign policy being borrowed from the 80s, his social policy from the 50s, and his economic policy from the 20s.
That was second most popular behind bayonets.
Yes. Exactly. Is this fact that you still have this language of a strong America, America that's going to kill the bad guys, a kind of a much more unipolar world as opposed to this reality of a multipolar world. And I think that was a big difference.
The other big moment was Israel. Let me play this, Jim, and I want to get your thoughts on how this played out.
You went to the Middle East, and you flew to Egypt and to Saudi Arabia and to Turkey and Iraq. And by the way, you skipped Israel, our closest friend in the region. But you went to the other nations. And by the way, they noticed that you skipped Israel.
When I went to Israel as a candidate, I didn't take donors. I didn't attend fundraisers. I went to Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Museum there, to remind myself the nature of evil and why our bond with Israel will be unbreakable. And then I went down to the border towns of Sderot, which had experienced missiles raining down from Hamas. And I saw families there who showed me where missiles had come down near their children's bedrooms. And I was reminded of what that would mean if those were my kids.
Jim, the president could have said, no, I support Israel, but he went really personal. When you start talking about children and missiles, that's a deep level.
Yeah, I think we did get to a level of irritation there where it has become somewhat personal to Obama. I think he's really tired of getting hit with this stick that somehow he's unfriendly to Israel or he's pioneered a bad relationship with Israel. Remember, Florida is still in play, so a theme of the entire debate was, you know, I'm the greatest friend of Israel. No, I'm the greatest friend of Israel. And a lot of that was actually for the domestic voter, but at the same time, you could hear a lot of edge to both men's voices where it's particularly personal for Obama. And frankly, I just think he's sick of it. The administration is sick of it. And the campaign is sick of being painted as a bad friend to Israel when they
with no proof of that ever being true in any case.
Up and down that they have been among the most friendly administrations in the history of the United States.
And I was also struck by the fact that Mitt Romney, how do you retort that when someone talks about you in town with Sheldon Adelson and I am walking with children, children of Israel? How do you count it? It was a very powerful moment, I think. I want to play this new ad out. Governor Romney, the apology tour, Ronna, and get your thoughts on it. Let's play that, please.
The president began with an apology tour of going to various nations and criticizing America. I think they looked at that and saw weakness.
So that's the new ad out today. Apology tour from the guy that I agree with all of his positions on everything foreign policy. It would be funny if it were not so important to all of us. But this is the comeback the day after.
Yeah, and the president made the point during the debate, and it's true that when fact checkers look at this issue, he has not been on an apology tour. There is no evidence of him ever having apologized for American values, for American beliefs, and for our position in the world. I think that it goes back to this very sort of black and white view of the world that the Romney camp is presenting versus this kind of more nuanced, multipolar vision that the president is presenting.
But does it also quickly go to the point of Mitt Romney still slightly straddling the fence? Yesterday, it was a more moderate candidate, and then you've got this new ad out, which could have been written by any of the conservative bloggers who yesterday showed a very, range of pictures where they said it depicted the president bowing down.
Right, exactly. And I mean, I think, again, the president hit hard on this point several times during the debate that Romney's been all over the map on any number of positions about foreign policy.
Thank you, Ronna. Thank you, Jim. It's always a great pleasure having your insight in this.